Yeah, I think the last time we spoke, well, I guess at least on camera, was at the Wave Fest. That was pretty fun. Even though the sun was like in my face the whole time. Y'all had, I feel like, a little better angle because y'all were kind of facing maybe not directly at the sun, but I was like looking back on that video.
It was so hot, and like I couldn't hear. You couldn't hear anything.
No, that's what. Yeah.
So it was like I was watching like parts of it the other day, and I was like screaming, but like you couldn't hear fucking anything.
Isn't that what I was telling you guys before the pod?
Yeah.
That's why we actually don't like doing live podcasts because, well, I think having headphones would alleviate that issue.
Yeah.
So we can hear each other better. But yeah, like doing live pods, like when we did one at, what is that thing that Utopia was doing outside? Was it First Fridays? It was one of those things that Utopia was, they do like outside at that park with the big stage out there.
Yeah, like first.
Yeah, it was one of those, and she invited us out to do a live pod there, and we did it, and we did it for we had like a 2-hour pod, but like we didn't drop it because I'm listening back to it, and it literally just sounds like it's just people just screaming into a microphone. I'm like, I can't drop this, but yeah, so I think headphones would solve that, but
either way, we don't do it enough to.
Yeah, that was a cool podcast though.
It was cool.
Me, you, and Batman.
That was great.
Then I think last time I saw you was at Vinny's Tapped In. I think it's called The Bird, that venue.
Yep.
You kind of ran me through like the history of work release, which I do kind of want to get to that at some point. But I figure, so you work at Selden Market. You are director of economic vitality for Downtown Norfolk Council. You were a part of Work Release, Slow Dive, like a bunch of stuff like over the years. But I figured it'd be a cool place to start because you are the director of economic vitality. Can you tell us a bit about these conditional use permits in Norfolk? Because I feel like that's been what's blocking a lot of these venues, a lot of these DJs from doing stuff. Like, what are those? How do you get around those? Is there a racially driven crackdown in Norfolk?
So, I probably know far more about conditional use permits than I've ever wanted to know about anything. I really know the ins and outs of them, and they are something that's used across the United States. But it's often for like zoning purposes. I mean, that's what they are. They're like zoning ordinances.
What do you mean by zoning purposes?
So it's typically that like a certain type of business is not allowed or allowed in certain areas. So for instance, like you might not want a drive-through next to, like a residential area. You don't want like a high traffic drive-through next to a residential area.
Or like you wouldn't want like a strip club near a school or something like that.
Exactly. So it's preventing. So there's certain uses, and by uses it's like types of businesses. There's certain uses that are permitted in areas, and there's certain that are never permitted in those areas, and then there's some that are permitted with conditional use. Okay. So we'll let you be there, but in order to be there, you have to get a sign off by the people in the neighborhood around you, basically. And here's the conditions that they've all agreed on, that you've agreed on to follow in order for your business to be allowed there. So they are used all over, and it's pretty standard. But in Norfolk, and I just found out recently, which makes all the sense in the world, or none, is that in Norfolk and Richmond are the only two cities in all of Virginia that use conditional use permits for businesses related to alcohol or entertainment. Norfolk and Richmond are the only ones in Virginia that use it for that, which explains why you hear people say, well, I got to do this conditional use permit in Norfolk. I don't understand why I don't have to do this in Virginia Beach. I have the same business in Virginia Beach, but I don't have to do it there, or Chesapeake or Suffolk or wherever. And it's because, and then you'll hear back, well, they have conditional use permits too. Well, they do, but they don't for alcohol. They don't for alcohol and entertainment.
It's more for like zoning.
It's more for just regular zoning stuff, So I don't know the year that conditional use permits were really started being used for the like alcohol and entertainment in Norfolk.
Was it last year? Because I feel like that's when the venue started shutting down.
No.
Or is that like when it started
it's
being
like,
enforced?
we're talking 90s, 80s, 70s. I don't like way back.
So how come the venues just started shutting down? Or am I just late to the party?
You're a little late to the party.
Okay.
It became a big thing. So what happened, so for years, they would just shut stuff down. And I think like a lot of the conversations regarding like, is it racially driven or what is going on with them was just like kind of not had before. And I also don't think that there was as much like overlap and mix and diversity in a lot of stuff that happens. Things were a lot more segregated, maybe not purposefully, but they just kind of were.
You're speaking about like the 80s and 90s.
80s and 90s, even past that, like just in the last like 10 to 15 years, have I really seen like the scenes and everything get super, super integrated, where like everyone is hanging out with everyone. And so back in the day, there was like these conditional use permits. And one of the big things was if you had a DJ, you were a nightclub. Well, now DJs aren't used like that anymore. Like DJ brunches, DJs are in a retail store, DJs are at a park, DJs are everywhere. It's
at regular bars.
Exactly. They're everywhere.
Dive bars.
Right.
Yeah.
Just because you have a DJ doesn't mean that everyone's dancing. So in order to have a DJ in the Norfolk Code, you are considered a nightclub. And then if you're considered a nightclub, you have additional scrutiny, but you also have to have a dance floor. You're required to have a certain dance floor depending on the number of people you have and stuff. So anyways, that just really starts complicating things. You also now have to go through all this additional scrutiny. So if you're applying because you just want to have a DJ on a Sunday morning brunch, but you now have to be a nightclub. Even that, whenever you start applying for that, that's all looked at differently. They're like, why this person's now the neighborhood is getting a notification saying you're applying to have a nightclub in their area.
Also, I guess what is so different about a nightclub than a bar? Like what is the, know what I mean?
Very good question. But it's just a matter of like back in the day, like there were certain types of people who listened to DJ music. There were certain types of clubs that had DJs. It was not a lot of the white establishments.
So it does feel racially driven?
Feels like it is. I mean, everyone will swear that it's not. And I think that nowadays, maybe that's not what the purpose is now. But where I start to worry about things and where I think other people start really questioning things is whenever there's not only these old rules in place, but there's also not equal and equitable enforcement of those rules. So it's not just nightclubs, it's not just DJs. We should be really clear on that because people really want to talk about that because it's the one that's like the kicker. Like that's like the big crazy one that no one can wrap their head around.
Or it may be just the one that like our community cares the most about.
Yes. Yeah. We're like, oh, DJs, that's the one that people get passionate about. But really it's about entertainment in general. So in order to have entertainment in your establishment in Norfolk, you have to have a conditional use permit, even if you're not selling alcohol. Just having entertainment. Entertainment means, are you having trivia night? Are you having a poetry reading?
Karaoke night.
Are you having karaoke night? Do you have, one of the questions on the conditional use permit is like, do you have more than 4 games?
Okay.
So I'm like, technically, if you have like a bunch of board games sitting in the corner, technically, you would need a conditional use permit. And so that whole fight and everything that we heard about a lot, in 2022, I think it was, which is why they actually continued. So like props to city council for saying this needs a lot more scrutiny. Like we need to look at this. We can't just make a decision on this.
The permit itself.
The permit itself, whenever there was in 2022, they were shutting down a lot of bars due to the conditional use permits, looking at back taxes that people owe, all kinds of stuff like that. And the topic of conditional use permits is what, that became something really in people's minds. And tons of people showed up to that city council meeting. because they were going to vote to not allow a lot of things.
I was there. I remember.
Were you?
Yeah,
Okay.
because at the time when I came, I had really no idea what was even going on. Everybody was just like, "We're going here." I get there and it's packed. Like the courtroom is packed. You couldn't even get in there.
No,
and the
they
whole
had
lobby
a whole
was packed.
bottom floor.
Yeah,
with
like it was like
TVs.
100 of us even in the lobby, like watching it on the TV.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm like, yo.
And it was continued by council because there wasn't enough information. They didn't have enough information. The public didn't have enough information. There was a lot of stuff that needed to be thought through thoroughly. And they still haven't gone back and really adjusted what was going on with that. And I'm glad they haven't, because I still think there's a lot of research and stuff that needs to go into that. Sorry, getting semi-sidetracked. So those conversations were not just about DJs. DJs were one piece of entertainment, related to that. But even one of the things that was the issue with the ordinance that they were trying to adopt that night, that ended up being continued, was that the definition of entertainment. And so they were defining that, and it was all of those things. It was poetry readings, like a karaoke, trivia night, all these things that every place that we know of has. Like you think of any bar, we're 2024. You can't just sit there and be a bar and just be a bar.
I mean, every bar has karaoke now. Like even like I know I go to like Phoebe's Dive Bar a lot and here in Hampton. They recently started having DJs. They have karaoke night all the time.
Yes.
It's just things to bring people in. It's almost like because there's competition now. There's other bars doing it, so like you might want to do it too.
If you go to like some podunk town in wherever, like out in the mountains somewhere, if there's more than one bar, I can guarantee you at least one of them's gonna have entertainment, because you have to have that. You have to have a trivia night. You have to have a thing. It's that competition. You have to have that. And people want something to do other than just sit around and drink too.
Yeah.
They want to listen to music. They want to, so it's not crazy to have that. But that was going to mean that everyone is going to have to then go through conditional use permit process and everything. I mean, technically you have to do that anyways. This is where it's not equal enforcement all the time. Is that there are places that have like the biggest karaoke nights in town or the biggest trivia nights in town or whatever, and they technically don't have a conditional use permit right now to have those things. Nobody's messing with them because like it's not on their radar or it's just trivia or whatever. But if there was a business doing something and you didn't like them for whatever reason, you could easily at that point enforce that permit just because. And so they're only enforcing it whenever it makes sense for them to want
so it feels like targeted enforcement. I'm trying to think, because like I'm trying to give the city the benefit of the doubt. Like, do they have good intentions? Is this really to keep it safe? Like, what is their reasoning like for actually doing it?
Yes. So and that's what I want to be really, really clear that like I do think that everyone has the best intentions in mind. I think that everyone loves our city, that they want only the best for it. They want people to be safe. They want people to have a good time. They want people to come there. They want all of those things. But I think right now they don't understand or know how to, it's something that they really have to put time and energy into enforcing. And I think they don't want to rush that. But I would like to see a lot more input be given, not just to like the residents in a neighborhood, but like sit down with the creatives, say here, like, what are you trying to do? What's going on? How can we help make it safe? And Downtown Norfolk Council brought the Gold Bar program to the city, Safe Night program to the city a couple years ago. And the city adopted the program. And I think, unfortunately, everyone's gotten busy. There's been a lot of turnover with the city. So that program isn't being like super, the program's not being like enforced or utilized. Utilized is probably what I should say. It's not really being utilized as well as it could be right now. But I think that like that was an outside agency that came in for that. And the point of Safe Night, they have it in Dallas and I think it's Arlington. There's a few cities. I can't remember them all. Austin. And I you might want to cut that part because I can't even remember. We should just
It's fine.
circle back.
Also, I guess,
can't remember exactly the cities,
yeah.
but the Safe Night program is being utilized in all these like bigger cities, and it's basically like community enforcement, you know? So instead of a cop coming in and being like, why is this person drunk? Why is this happening? Why, you know, like pointing out everything that's wrong or like your over capacity, instead of pointing out everything that's wrong, coming in and saying, hey, like we're here to be your friend. If you have a problem, call us. We'll help. You know what I mean? Like we'll help deal with that. Hey, I noticed that you're over capacity. Let's work on getting these people out. Let's work, you know what I mean? And like really just trying to like help a business through and navigate the things that are unsafe and scary and difficult to manage with nightlife, you know?
I guess really last question on the permits is, what is it really like, what's stopping a venue from just getting one of the permits? Is it just obstacles in it that they can't get around, or like what, you know what I mean?
It's really difficult process and it costs a lot of money. And
how much is the permit?
So it's $1,080.
One-time fee, or?
So for the last 5-ish years or so, they've started implementing like a 2-year sunset clause, which means at 2 years you have to go back through the process again and renew it. So, like as like, are you still doing good? But I mean, really, if you're not doing good, they would have already shut you down, right? So why are we making a business pay again and go through the whole process again?
And I guess also, what is something in the permit that you see most venues get hung up on? Like, what's the hardest part about it?
So they're not necessarily like really thinking through their security plan. They're not going, I mean, like, and then between planning commission and council and whatever, nobody wants to approve something that they're not 100% certain is going to be, you know, I guess safe. They just want to make sure that whatever's happening is going to be safe and that they're not going to run into issues with the neighborhood and community around it. And so there's like hesitation right now. They used to get approved fairly easily, not super easy, but a lot easier. Now they're not, you know, like they're not getting approved barely ever. And if they are, it's like they'll approve things till like 11 p.m. or whatever.
That's when the party gets started, though. Like, come on.
What I really think, you know, I'm trying to put some folks together for next year, because I really would like to get some of the people who are working at venues, who are planning events, people that are in the creative industry and that really care about the safety, but they also care about like the long-term like economic development of our community and the culture and what's happening around us. Trying to get those people together to really think about like, okay, we understand what your concerns are. We understand all of that, but how can we make you feel safe? You know, how can we ensure that the venues that we're running, that we're working at, that we're working with, that we're making sure that they're safe and that you feel good about those things, so that we can have our venues back, so that we have a progressive city. Because it's not just about DJs. It's not just about, you know, but that like between alcohol and entertainment, that like we're working to be safe, you know. And I don't know how we necessarily get to that point, but I do think with the right data and the right people and conversations, that we can come together and find that common ground. I just don't think that anyone has put the right time and energy into making sure that that's happened right now.
Also, it's just like shit happens. You're never going to be 100% like percent safe. It's always going to be something like people are going to fight, or there are shootings that happen.
100%.
God forbid, nobody wants it to happen, but you can never completely stop that stuff. Yeah. So now it's like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna shut down every venue in the damn city?
Right. That stuff's gonna happen. I mean? Those are things that happen in a city. All we can do is try to make sure that we're trying to be as safe as possible, that we're taking precautions where we can, but it doesn't mean to stop moving, you know? So we have to make sure we're still progressing, that we're still trying to move forward, and that we're opening up opportunities that we don't know exist yet. You know, there's a lot of different types of uses and things that happen that like didn't exist 10 or 15 years ago, you
Like
know?
what?
Even just like the way everyone does pop-ups now and all, like that wasn't a thing. Like,
You think Raisa has to get a permit for like the stuff she does outside? For like the First Fridays?
the First Fridays thing is through Vibe and stuff. So she's like a producer, I think, on those.
So Vibe probably has like their own permit or whatever.
Yeah, that's more of like an event permit that's going on. And so that's separate from.
It seems like Virginia Beach is doing, from what I see, a good job at like funding the arts and helping out the creatives. Kella we just did a panel at Creatives for Charity Weekend. He was telling me that Virginia Beach just approved some like $13 million grant
they just
that's
did
going towards the creatives.
Grant program
you know
for
about
creatives.
Can you tell us more about that?
I don't know all of the details, but they did. They just, through their cultural arts program, I think, or department, they just approved a very large sum of money to go towards grants for the creative industries.
I did a podcast with what was that lady's name that we did a podcast with? It was a white lady, and she was the one that cried about Gifted Hands. You remember? I literally forgot her name. I think her nickname is Red. I forgot her real name though. But she was we were talking about how there's all these, cities and areas around the country that are like hot spots for creativity. Like we're talking about LA, Atlanta, New York, and we were just talking about like why that is. And she kind of told me, I didn't really think about it. She's like, a big reason that those places are that way is because the city puts money behind the arts. Mm-hmm. They have a vested interest in that place being popping. Mm-hmm. I never really thought about that.
Yeah,
I thought it was just like all up to us. Like we have to go viral. We have to make it happen ourselves. Like
no, there's plenty of cities and stuff that do put money and energy and effort. And like even Norfolk does that. It's just going often to the big arts organizations as opposed to like
the museums or
so it's going to the Chrysler, it's going to Virginia Arts Fest, it's going to Virginia Stage Company, it's going to the Opera House, it's going, you know what I mean? And those are all great institutions that have been around forever and are awesome and need supported as well. But I think, that kind of counterculture arts, the small guy, the DIY,
the new generation,
the young, exactly.
And also it's like we have the potential to get a whole new generation around here interested in this stuff, because there's so many people that don't go to museums, that don't go to these high-end like establishments or like the high-end creativity stuff. I don't know. I think
there's also plenty of people that didn't go to them and then they go to some of the like more DIY stuff and get introduced to arts and get introduced to things, and then those things then go to Social Supply and Coffee Black and everyone going to the Mocha, and then now you have people who've never been to the Mocha before are now at the Mocha, and that I'm like, that's a chain of like growth and like learning arts and culture, and it like that's like your entry point to it.
Yeah, they were telling us it was like, I think they had like 467 people at the Mocha, like 21 new members signed up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, they're killing it with that. That was a great event, and there's the Ignite series in Norfolk at Chrysler. I mean, back 10 years ago, we were bringing DJs and events and doing all of that at the Chrysler as well in the court there.
Speaking of 10 years ago, I was on your, just to pivot a little bit, I was on your Instagram just scrolling through.
I saw it come up, and then
when I liked the post.
Yes, and then I fell down a rabbit hole, man. And I was like,
first of all, I was weak because her style back in the day was like, were you like gothic back in the day? I feel like she had like the black like makeup on, all black. I don't want to say gothic, but like you were on your rock star shit. Like
gothy, yeah.
But I saw a video. If you want to pull it up, Karen, we actually have it. We have the video, but it was Sonny and Gabe and Drum performing "I Love It" at Work Release, like 2015. I want to say maybe 16.
Like such an iconic night too. It was just.
Do you remember that night?
Oh yeah, 100%. It was within our first couple. I think that was.
It was this video right here.
Yeah, what's the date on it?
Look at it. I want to say it was 2016. What does that say?
No, 20. I was gonna say. I was gonna say. I was like, I'm pretty sure it was within the first month or two of us opening Work Release. It was. So we opened Work Release on April 1st of 2015. Okay. So this was right then. And Drum was like just like.
Was he already blowing up?
He was already blowing up.
Because I feel like the rumor in the city is like, not to cut you off, is that Work Release was like pivotal in drum blowing up somehow, but I never really got like the full story of that.
So, my old partner Charles and I started Alchemy in the Neon District in 2013. And there we drum would come practice and everyone would come practice. We had band practice. Like people were like, I don't know. It was an art studio. We had some little DIY shows. We had gallery space. We had tons of art studios. We had like a skateboard ramp in the back. There was like a skateboard shop in the back, like they're making skateboards. It was
And
great.
what was this venue called?
Alchemy NFK.
That's when you told me about. I think you said that's where Exchange is now in Norfolk, right?
It's where Exchange is now. So there was everybody was like, the whole community was always in there, like creating, like, I mean, if you look back at old videos, it's wild. It's like the number of weird things that were going on in one place, and it was huge space. It was like 10,000 square feet or something. So there was like tons of space to do all kinds of random stuff. And so I remember he would come in there with like Gabe and everybody. But then we did a couple events at the pool at the what is now the Wyndham. And then we did First Fridays downtown with DNC, Downtown Norfolk Council, who I work for now. And Drum kind of performed for the first time at several of those things.
His first performances.
Yeah, so that's like when we met him. Like Drum, we were doing it one event at like the pool at the Wyndham, and Sonny and Gabe were performing, and then like this guy comes on stage, and I think Charlie was like, "Who is this dude? Like, should I take the mic from him?" And Gabe's like, "No, he's like our friend," and I feel like that was like one of the first times that we kind of like met him. But then he was like around, and then he just blew up. Yeah. And so all of that was like around the same time. Yeah. I realized we started talking, and then we didn't watch the video. And I'm like, did you play it?
We played it. Yeah. I also saw them. I don't know when the last time they performed it, like before this, but I had actually recorded it and posted it. But they performed I Love It, Sonny and Gabe and Drum at the last Something in the Water.
Yeah.
At the Disc Freak stage, I think.
Yeah.
I just felt like that was like a rare moment. Because I legit love that song.
It's
I
so
listen to that shit all the time.
It's so good. And that was like, yeah, Number One Epic Summer had like blown up. Like he was blowing up then. And so for him to come back to his hometown and like with all the homies and then it was just really fun. And they were fun that night. Like that was super great. But I fell down the rabbit hole when I saw you like that. I was like, then I like went to like the location. I'm like looking at all these like just random people I don't even know. It's like old Work Release videos and the crazy, like we just did everything. It was everything. It really was. Like, I mean, it was really high end art thanks to like the Rudders. It was like drink and draws. It was like LGBTQ, like spoken word, like everything. It was like band, like noise bands, and then there'd be like brass bands. Like I don't know, it was everything. Then at night it would be just like crazy DJ, like, and just the party, and it was everyone coming together. I mean, everyone. So you would literally have like Virginia Beach, like North End Virginia Beach attorneys and stuff there, and then you would have like just you would have all the creative kids, you would have the nerds, you would have like everybody was there, and it was so fun. We had a lot of fun during those years.
We had Can Rock on the show recently. I want to say he said he spun the first weekend ever at Work Release. Mm-hmm. Maybe the first night. Was it the first night or the first weekend?
Definitely the first weekend. I know we had Oh Boy. I'm pretty sure we had Oh Boy the first night, but he might have done it too. We usually had a couple of DJs within a night. But I'm like one exhibition that we did that Charles was the curator of. It was like, I think it was like everybody's one of their favorites, but it was our second exhibition, and it was a graffiti exhibition. And we got 2 shipping containers delivered.
Like the big, huge ones? How
the
big
20 foot. So they're like the shorter ones. but we got 2 shipping containers, put them in the back parking lot, and then had our friends build a half pipe between the 2 shipping containers. And then we had like graffiti artists painting the shipping containers. We had the whole party. It was like outside, inside. We had all kinds of graffiti artists, even from like New York and like across, just all over, everywhere. Like come into town, all the local kids. We also did really great. We used to work with BV.
What's BV?
BV was he passed away in like 2020, and he was love BV. He's just a killer part of the scene, and he's so great. But he was an amazing artist, and he was also a graphic artist, and he designed all of our like he did all of our flyers too, but all of our branding and stuff that went along with all of our art exhibitions. So they were always just so spot on and perfect. And like, so with that graffiti exhibition, like BV had designed this like zine as everyone's like painting everything like the weeks leading up. And then it had like a sticker pack with it. It was called Nobody Writes Letters Anymore. Again, Charles kills it with branding and stuff always. So that was his thing for his show. And it was like pencils that said Nobody Writes Letters Anymore. You got this whole dope black and white sticker packet, like whenever you came to the show. That was one thing that like always happened, I think, a lot back in the day that doesn't happen now in the scene, is like a lot of the parties and stuff, you would like get memorabilia. Like
something to take home with you?
Yeah, a lot of times. And like, yeah, you could buy stuff, like you could buy merch and stuff, but you often like got something with the party, like.
I think that's cool. Even like, for example, like Gabe spoke to the mayor, and I have like the poster up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, shit like that.
Yeah, exactly. So you like get a poster. There was a lot of time, like the cups, like branded cups for things. I don't know, like just little, like stickers or, like you would get stuff at places. So anyways, for that show, it was like it was just a really cool show. If you go back through our old Instagram and stuff like that, like those are the things, when I look back, I'm like, oh man, look, we did really cool stuff. Like way back too, that's 10 years ago. So.
Was there anything that you guys wanted to do that you didn't get a chance to? Because I remember we spoke at the bar about it. I think because I actually was like, what was a downfall of work release? I want to say it was, if I remember correctly, you were like, you guys didn't own the venue. Correct. There was like an owner and an investor or whatever, and then I think your visions like didn't align at some point. Like he didn't really see the vision. Yeah,
I think our visions just didn't align, after a while. And that's fine. I think it was time to part ways, and I'm glad work release like landed at like it was on a high, so everyone still has these like really high.
It was I wasn't around at that time, but it seems like everybody still speaks so highly about it to this day.
It was great. It really was like, I think we all knew that then, but like now you look back and you're like, and every time I fall down that rabbit hole of like old photos and stuff, you're like, oh my gosh, we literally had everybody in and out of there all the time. So anyways, it was super cool, but yeah, just the visions weren't lining up. And it was just time to try to take a little break and, let the Rudder Family Art Foundation really like focus on what they wanted to do there. And they brought Commune in, and Commune's been awesome with them. I think that they're a great partnership. And, I see Commune wanting to like open up their space a little bit more to the creative community again and things. And I love that.
Were you there that night, like last month?
Oh yeah. I helped because my Downtown Norfolk Council puts on Neon Fest. Okay. So we helped program all that and place all them. And so I was really excited to get everybody back in there. And I know it was full circle for Fake Azumi. But for me, it was like, that was really crazy too.
That was a really fun night.
I went back that night and looked at, I knew that Dot had played the last weekend.
At work release? The last ever, like...
The last ever. Okay. I knew he did, and I went back and found my video, and then I reposted them back to back from me, because he ended up, like... he was just, like, the stage... We moved... Work release was never... We rearranged it, like, every night. Like, it was always different when you went in there. You never knew where the stage was going to be. You never knew where the art walls were going to be. Everything was mobile. Everything was changeable. It was different all the time. And so the stage was, like, almost in the same place that he was. He even, like, was playing some of the same songs from that set. It was really cool. to like see, because he was just a young kid like then, and to see like how much he's grown and changed, and to see all those young kids now be in the same spot, like that was really cool to see that.
Yeah, I think we need more stuff that brings people together around creativity, around the arts, because ultimately what it does, it inspires us to keep going. So like I like seeing stuff like even brands or even like for using just the podcast, for example, like this is somewhere where you'll come to see a bunch of different artists on this platform, even artists that might not even hang out and like outside of here. So that could be inspiring. But then like what these like venues do in these live events, it brings that energy to real life.
Yeah.
So it's just being around like-minded people.
Yes.
As simple as that is, that is the spark that usually like keeps you going.
Yes. I mean, I'll say like, for example, you know, I'm getting older now. I don't drink. I don't.
Oh, you don't drink? I never noticed
I don't
that.
drink.
Okay.
No, but you see me out.
I'm gonna get you a little water next time. little club soda.
But you see me out because I just like being around that energy, you know? So yeah, hanging out with a bunch of 25, 30-year-olds, you know, I'm like, got some extra years on them. And, you know, and they're all partying and hanging out. And I'm like, I just want to be around that energy. And I know that there's other people like me out there, you know, that like just want to be around that, because that like having those creative people, having those outlets, having that energy around you, that just gets you excited. And I mean, that makes me want to continue doing more things. That makes me like proud of the old things I've done and seeing like how things progress and change over time. So like I can't imagine a world, like I can't imagine being any age and being like, I don't want, you know what I mean? Like, that's not safe. I don't want that around me, or these young kids. I'm like, I can't, that doesn't register with me.
On a safety thing, my experience has always been, I separate the creative crowd with just a regular nightlife crowd. It's not the same. Like if you go to like creative events is like the only events I've ever been to at venues out here that there's no security patting people down. Yeah. There's just no need for it. I've literally been to like at least 50 events, maybe more. Never have seen anybody even get in an argument, let alone get in a fight or something. But you go to Peabody's, you go to any nightclub, like you're gonna get pat down, you're gonna get searched, because things do happen there. And like the vibe is just a lot more loving at these like creative events.
I 100% agree. I think we chatted about this at the Bird that night a little bit. Okay.
All right, for real this time.
Okay. We chatted about that at the Bird a little bit that night, is that kind of difference. And I think a large part of it is that like there's a respect there.
Yep.
And this is where I think things like having the right talks, the right people involved, with that kind of community policing and like that Safe Night program that I was talking about, but even more so, we should be doing something more locally. But where you're having your security and everyone, like that's their first impression. That's somebody's first impression whenever they walk into an establishment. And they should feel like they're being respected, you know, because they're not going to respect you and your establishment if they're not respected from the second they walk in the door.
I think you were telling me like y'all would have like meetings with security and be like telling them kind of how to approach people.
We would. Everything, every bit of it, like, was how to diffuse situations, how to be kind, how to be respectful. Like, if someone is getting too close to a bunch of art or they're being crazy, like, you give them ownership of that. You say, like, and this is, again, like, I gotta hand it to Charles a lot. Like, these are things that he instilled in all of our security and stuff going through the years. And that was huge. Is like, whenever you're like, oh, like, hey, can you help me? This is a really expensive piece of art. Can you just like help me watch, make sure nobody messes it up? Like, now there's ownership in that, you know? And you weren't just telling them, hey, get off that thing, you know? Like, you now have made them a part of it. They're part of this community. They're a part of keeping it safe too, you know? And I think DJs can really help control a crowd, and all of these things play into that security and safeness. And I think this is what I'm seeing happen at most of the creative events, is that I think creatives often already have this like strong sense of community and love. And like, so they start like that's happening from the second they walk in the door, and they're really easy to adopt that as things go. So like a DJ should be controlling the crowd. They should be looking and being like, what's the energy that I'm putting out that's going, to these people when they're coming in, when they're leaving, as the night's going on. So at the end of the night, like, you want to play happy vibes. You want things to be like good. You want your hosts and DJs and everyone to be like, tip your bartenders, have a great night, take your friends home, make sure your friends are safe, like take care, be safe, like we'll see you back next week. Like just creating like a bit of love and like care between each other. And I don't know, that doesn't always happen at places. It's just very much like a transaction.
Yeah, I usually feel like an outsider at like a regular nightlife spot.
Yeah.
But this feels more like inclusive, and like you usually know somebody, or you know somebody who knows somebody that's throwing it. So it's like that respect factor there,
yes.
like you're saying.
And I think that the creative community is a lot more open to outsiders too. So if you see someone, you know what I mean? Like you're like, oh, hey, what are you doing? What's going on? Like, let's try to bring that in. And I think that I think there's definitely opportunity to teach that beyond just the creative community, we had a lot of people, especially after 2 years, like of being a really dope spot, with Work Release, we had a lot of the community that wasn't like a lot of our customers that were not from the creative community that came in there, because they heard it was a cool club at night or whatever. And, we never had problems because they were treated with respect, because they saw how the rest of the people were acting towards each other, towards what was going on, Whenever there was an issue, they weren't screamed at.
That was a learning curve for me too. Not even really more of just how people treat each other in there. Mm-hmm. Where it's like you go to a regular spot and it's not uncommon to get like mean mugged or like side-eyed by somebody. It's kind of like feels confrontational with like people you don't know. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was a learning curve for me too. Like when I started going to these spots. So we're talking about the energy at Work Release around these times. This is like, 10 years ago?
Yeah, 20.
How do you think the energy feels right now in the scene?
I think it feels the same, if not better. There's like the crowd, the scene is a lot bigger, like that creative, like nightlife scene, is a lot bigger. I think it's more easily embraced. It's not as weird feeling anymore.
It was what was weird feeling about it?
I don't know. It just felt small. It felt smaller.
More like a niche thing.
Yeah, like I don't get it, because we were doing things that were very outside the box at that time. Like we were integrating a lot of different communities together. We would do during like Pride Week and whatever, all of our wristbands would be rainbow, and we would have people at the door being like, I ain't putting that on. And be like, well, you're not coming in then. And like, and you're like, and you have
gay,
to,
ain't gonna lie.
Yeah. And we would like, but guess what? They would end up doing it. And then by the end, they would have friends who were gay or who, or whatever, because you just did it. You would be like, oh, like it was just you were forced to be around people different than you. And I think that in general, like the world is a lot more open, to being around people that are different than you and stuff. So I think overall the scene has gotten a lot bigger, because it's not as niche. It's not as weird. It's, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of more mainstream to be weird now,
Yeah, I look, I feel like our scene is bubbling up. Like, I think we kind of have, like, I feel we spoke on it on the pod before, but the way I see it is we have a real scene. We have everything you need for you to develop as an artist now. So now all it's really going to take is we have all the pieces in play, all the pieces in position. The next step is just for a few of us to start going viral and start getting nationwide recognition, worldwide recognition. And then people will start being interested in like where we're from and what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And then they can just come here and plug into the scene that we already created. And that's how our scene will just start getting that that recognition from other places.
I do think, I think we need that. I think that we do pretty well. Like, for as small as our area is, I think that we have a lot that comes out of it, a lot of talent that like is big talent, you know? I think that we often have a like false sense of how big our region is.
What do you mean by that?
Like, population wise, we're not that big, you know, like we're like, I looked it up recently. And
now, are you combining all 7 cities?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
Yeah. Even with all 7 cities, we're not that big, you know? I mean, we're big, but like, I think we're like maybe like 50th or something. Like,
can you look that up?
Can you look it up?
Because I could have swore somebody told me that if you combine all 7 cities, that we're like one of the biggest markets on the East Coast. I might be wrong though. Type in big. What'd you search for? Maybe search for biggest markets on the East Coast or 37th largest. Is that in America?
Yeah.
I mean, in the whole country.
Yeah, but 37? I'm like, I feel like we have way more talent than 37th.
Let's see the list. Pull the list up. Open that up. Zoom in on that a little bit. What does that say? Well, the population of the 7 independent cities in Hampton Roads, Virginia is over 1.7 million people. Go down to where the 37th. I want to see what some of the other places are like ahead of us.
You'll be surprised at how many what feel like small cities are ahead of us.
Go down. No, go down. Go down. Open that one up where it says, it should say, that's just Hampton Roads. Never mind.
No, just put on like...
Just type in biggest, what was the question?
Like largest population in the U.S.
Areas, yeah, there you go, yep. Let's read some of those. Is there a list or is it going through each one of them?
I think that, yeah.
Okay, yeah, let's see that. Zoom in a little bit on that. What's number 1? New York. Okay, that makes sense. New York, Newark, New Jersey, Los Angeles, Chicago, Dallas, Houston, Atlanta.
Scroll down. Once you get
Washington. Yeah, what's near us? Go down to 37th.
Yeah, I'm like, you're gonna start to be really surprised at all of the places.
Are we 37th on this list? Virginia Beach. So San Jose is right before or ahead of us. You got Nashville is 36th. Indianapolis 35th and the 34th. Cleveland, Columbus, Kansas City. Okay. So, where were you going with that? So you said we have a false sense of how
many
big
people
our
are
market
actually
is.
here and how big,
Okay.
yeah, exactly, how big our market is, you know? Like, it's easy to be like, the scene is so much bigger or whatever, but you're like, or people are like, oh, we need more, you were talking about needing more venues. I heard one of your recent, I don't know if it was talking to Daff or Kello and them or what. Like, sure, but if you have more venues, you're not going to fill them.
You need people to fill those venues.
You need people to fill those venues, you know?
I mean, I would argue that we have the people, but we just haven't targeted it or marketed to them correctly yet. Because, 1.7 million people.
1.7 million people.
I mean, some of those are going to be people 60, 70. Some
what
of
I'm
those are going
getting
to be
at.
babies.
I'm like, whenever you then take the 20 to 40-year-old people that are going to go out.
Yeah.
You know, now you're at
like 0.7 maybe, if that.
You're bringing that population down real low. I did this recently when I was looking at something, and I think it started to end up where it was like, it just kept going down and down. Because then you're like, okay, now how many of those people are actually going to leave their house? You know what I mean? Because you're going to have homebodies that are like, I'm not going anywhere. You're going to have people who have families. I'm not going anywhere, you know? And then you start to even get even more niche with it, and you're like, okay, that want to listen to this type of music. You know, or that it just trickles down and trickles down and trickles down. And then you're like, okay, that's looking at the whole region. What about like somebody in Newport News, for example, is not going to drive all the time to wherever, you know?
It is a drive. I'm not going to lie. I do it a lot because I generally just love going to these spots.
That's because you live in Newport News. Nobody in Norfolk is going to Newport News to go.
No, I was saying like me driving to Virginia Beach.
Yeah.
Like, I know a lot of my friends that I might invite to go with me that really don't really care about a scene like that. Mm-hmm. They're like, yeah, I'll skip this one out.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, and so when you start doing, you start taking away all of those things and peeling back the layers, you're like, okay, we don't have anyone. You have you end up with 10,000 people who are going out to the bars, or you know what I mean, or like going out. Like it starts to just go down and down and down whenever you really start looking at like all the demographics of like what's going to cause somebody to go out, and you're like, oh, okay, well then I think that we're probably actually doing really good.
So we're at like the sweet spot already.
Yeah, I think we're at a good spot. I think that there are places that can do better. There might be different sizes of venues that need to change. There, you know, I think there's all kinds of things that could be better. But I think that we often struggle with like being like, why didn't I thought more people were going to come to this event or whatever. And I'm like, it's not like, that's not always going to happen. You know, like there's only so many people around here. Now, what we could be doing is working to make things as cool as possible and be as progressive and work as regionally as possible in order to draw more people to the area in general, you know? And so I think, you know.
And these things have to be profitable.
Yeah.
You can lose money once or twice doing something, but like if you want to be sustainable, it has to become profitable at some point.
Yes.
Every bar in the city's packed every night.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're not creative. We're talking about just regular nightlife. Bars, clubs, they're packed every weekend. There's people going out to bars every single night. Now it's like, okay, can we draw these people into the creative events? Mm-hmm. I think live music can do it. Mm-hmm. Because that's something that people out here aren't really that accustomed to.
Yeah.
Like if you go to like Austin, Texas, or some of these places around the country where there is a lot of live music happening.
Yeah.
There's live
like
comedy.
Everywhere you go. Yeah.
So, because people like that. I mean, here if you're a regular person going to regular clubs, the only live entertainment you'll really see is, like we said, karaoke night or like cover bands. Mm-hmm. And people even love that.
Yeah.
So now it's like, okay, I think they would love original live music too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how do we introduce them to it?
Yeah, I think we don't have enough of that like feel of just like, being inundated with music, like live music and stuff all the time.
Or even comedy or any type of live stuff.
Yeah.
Poetry.
But a lot of it is like that there's so much additional permitting, additional things like that go along with all of that. And it's easy. It also costs money. You have to pay, like you got to pay all those people. And, you know, like all of that, I don't know, it all starts to be a lot, but we have to figure out like how to make it work. How do we make it so that we can make our region like cool, that people are going to stuff, that we're paying our artists, because that will draw more people in, which then bring more money in. And like we have to do that. We have to really be supporting our creatives in all different ways. I don't think that we do enough to support that and realize what the creative community brings in, you know, how exciting it can be for a 20-year-old who's in college, you know, to feel that sense of love and community and like uniqueness of wherever they are, you know. It has to be something that feels special to them, or they're just going to go to another city, you know. And I think we can argue all day about the price of housing or you know, we need to have jobs, but like whether it's affordable housing and all that stuff. Yes, there's some like out-migration studies that are out there, and props to them for doing those. That
people are leaving the area?
Yeah, about why people are leaving, why especially like young people are leaving the area.
Why is it?
There's like, according to that study, it's saying that it's like due to safety concerns and like affordable housing and the number of jobs.
I can see the jobs, but
bingo.
But I feel like out here is semi-affordable compared to a lot of places in the country.
It's also that like I'm like, nobody has a problem moving to New York or LA or all these places
in
that
a shoebox
cost
for $3,000 a month.
Exactly,
yeah.
Because the area around them is so cool. They see opportunities. Yeah. They see that they're being supportive. It's fun. It's, you know, they want to be around it.
I feel like people have been tricked into enjoying New York. I would never live in a big city. I don't know. Maybe it's just not for me, but I'm like, things just take too long. Like everything just takes too long to get there for me. I don't have the patience for that.
Yeah, I kind of feel you on that. I like visiting.
Yeah, I like visiting too. Okay, so we're talking about the creative community, these different venues over the years. I guess, can you just tell us a bit about you. Like, where are you from? What was it like coming up for you? How did you get involved with the creative community? And like, it seemed like you made like a lifelong career out of this.
I'm figuring out my lifelong career.
Yeah, I mean, because now you're
Yeah.
working with the city. You're doing like kind of the adult part of it.
Yeah.
Now. Like you started when you were younger. Like you've like grown up in it, and now you're doing like the adult part of it, the behind the scenes, the business side.
Yeah. I like that I get to really dabble between like the boring stuff, you know what I mean, and like the suits and then the creative. Like it's kind of always been my lane. So even like in high school, I would like hang out with all the like artists and musicians and bad kids and whatever. And then I was like president of my class, vice president of the school, like straight A student. And they would be like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, I don't know.
So
I
you was
like
a
both.
poser. No,
You know, I was like on like the state city council. I don't even know. Like, you know, like, so I've always kind of rode in that lane.
Born and
like,
raised in Norfolk?
No. So I'm from, I was born up near Pittsburgh, and then we moved to Maryland. I lived in Maryland till I was 17. Went to school in Asheville for a semester, and then basically ran off and married a Navy dude. And moved to Norfolk when I was 18. And then I had my son very early, right after that. And so, but I knew I wanted to go to school. So I think I maybe had about a year and a half off of school, and then I dove into school. I was working, going to school, and had a son. And I went to school at Virginia Wesleyan for biology. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I really liked some environmental biology classes that I took. So I was like, I'm going to do environmental research. Fast forward to now, that's obviously not what I do at all.
It's like, fuck the environment. Let me get this bag.
Yeah.
It's like,
I just have crap tons of student loans. That's all. But I worked at Starbucks when I was in college and graduated, and I was working at the Starbucks in Ghent. And there were guys that came in all the time that were super creative, and I just thought they were so cool. And figured out who they worked for because they came in all day long, and it was Grow. So I don't know if you're familiar with Grow. The owner of Grow is Drew Ongvarsky, who is the owner of Assembly. And so Grow takes up like the whole second floor of Assembly. And Drew's just been, like a great visionary, and he's been my mentor for years. And I love him and don't think that, yeah. Anyways, but I was like, I want to work there, and I was like, but I don't have, that's not my skill set. But I was like, I want to work there, so I just kind of watched him for a while. Anyways, ended up taking like an office manager job there and worked myself up the ladder a little bit, like pretty quickly. And I was the ops director at Grow, and Drew is just very passionate about Norfolk. I mean, he's competing. It's a digital ad agency. They're competing with LA, like San Francisco, New York, and he wanted to make sure we had great talent here, so we have to make our city cool. So I would work with Drew on and Grow on like all of our community projects. And then I got involved in Revision Norfolk, which was a nonprofit organization that we had back in the day that was just for doers. And so like we would find projects that we wanted to do. We would bring them up in our like board meetings and then be like, okay, is this something we all want to work on as a team together? Who's going to be the champion of it? And then we would basically do whatever we had to do, talk to whoever we needed to talk to try to make whatever happen. So we got like bike racks in downtown. We got food trucks allowed in Norfolk. Food trucks weren't allowed in Norfolk back in the day. That was kind of this Revision and Alt Daily, and then into Alchemy. That was all the start of the Neon District. So, establishing our first arts district in the area. We just really worked on trying to make cool shit happen. And you couldn't just sit around and talk about it. You had to do it. You had to be doing it. So anyways, we started that, and then Charles and I were friends, and he was doing an art show in like the vacant spot that we had at Grow next door to us at the time. I don't know. We had art shows in there with Mocha, Generation Mocha, which was their Young Leaders Board or whatever at the time. Then this group Better Block came in. I don't know. It just kind of like all spiraled. It was just like the onset. 2013 was kind of like the onset of like, I think a lot of what we all know now, you know, for the scene. It was like, so we did this Better Block event with the city in the old Alchemy space, which is now Exchange. We had this crazy art show, had like 50 people in it. We did a bunch of pop-up vendors in the space. It was just a big empty warehouse space. We did, there was skateboarding in the back. Then we had bands and DJs and everything at night. We did a pop-up bar and like cafe. And Sunny and Gabe performed. I think that was like the first time I met like a lot of the people that I know now.
I remember, not to cut you off, I remember the first time I ever saw Sunny Moonshine. It was at, you know, this dude Hans. He's a DJ and artist, like this Filipino guy. I think he's Filipino.
Okay. But
he did a I think a video release party at Contemporary Arts Network. Mm-hmm. They're building like on Warwick right there.
Yeah.
And Sunny performed there. And this was like maybe like 3 years ago. And I was like, who the fuck is that? Like, she's just like, she was just so weird and like eccentric. Kind of like, I think she had her wig on at the time and she was like talking in her accent. So she's performing the music, and then like between songs, she's talking in her accent the whole time.
Yeah, which I feel like is like almost Sunny's voice now.
Now that I know her, that's what she does when she's like nervous.
Yeah.
So, but at that point, she didn't like use her like regular speaking voice. So I'm thinking that's her real speaking voice. Not until like I spoke to her like I think a few times, I'm realizing like, oh wait, that wasn't even her real voice.
Oh my God.
I was like, what is going on here?
Oh
but like,
God.
yeah, I was just like blown away by her. Since from the first time I met her, I just thought she was like real special.
She is.
Yeah.
She's super talented. She's super fun, really creative. I love Sunny.
I love making stuff for her. We've done a bunch of like skits and stuff over the years. We're gonna do some more stuff too. But yeah, she's really cool. We have a lot of people in the city like that.
We do.
That I feel like just.
She's a great example of like where someone like Sunny 15 years ago or whatever, like it would have been like, that's weird. And now you're like everyone loves Sunny because she doesn't care about like.
She's herself.
Being herself, yeah, you know? And like
that's also what I've been thinking too, and like what I try to, because I am now kind of like building relationships with people that have been doing this for a long time around here. And I'm self-aware enough to know that I'm still new to it, and there is certain steps that you have to take to have longevity in this, and there's like certain mistakes you want to avoid. So I'm trying to learn as much. I try to learn from others. Mm-hmm. So I look at some of these people that we've had over the years. I'm like, I haven't figured out. I'm like, why haven't they went further? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I'm stuck on that still. And like, I don't know.
It depends. Like
we've had Drum, like we said, he blew up big. Mm-hmm. But we have a bunch of other artists that could have easily done that. But it's like, what was that thing they either didn't do or
I think
don't know.
It's like a combo of like, you got to be at the right place at the right time. And then like, and who you know, and then it's hard work, you know? I think that often people don't want to put the work into things, you know?
It's a lot harder than it seems.
Yeah, like you have to be focused, and it's really easy to get like trapped in even just like trying to be cool or trying to party or trying to, you know, like that stuff is like weirdly almost things you have to do or feel like you have to do because you're like, I got to make sure that I'm being seen in this whole like social media age and all that stuff too. This perception, you have to put on the facade, you have to be the character of it too. But I think some people then get lost in that and forget that like, oh wait, I still have to do like the work.
And yeah, like those things are really just the distractions.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what I like about the internet these days. Like I feel like you almost have to be authentic to win now.
Yeah.
Like the climate has changed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I try to do that. I've kind of found a good balance with that. Like I try to just genuinely be myself. Like if you see me in real life, like I'm pretty much the person that you see on like the videos. I kind of tone it back actually online. Like I'm probably more wild in real life. But like I don't know. Yeah, I think authenticity is key.
I think so too. you know?
I don't know. I guess really last question I had is, I know you work with Selden Market. What's going on with Selden Market right now?
So, for the last, since we opened in 2017, I was the director of Selden Market, but then Selden Market is a project of Downtown Norfolk Council, so they're one and the same.
And I guess tell people if they don't know, what is Selden Market?
Selden Market is a small business incubator in downtown Norfolk. We literally sit like in between the Slover Library and the Hilton. And we have 11 storefront businesses, plus we do pop-ups and like regular events. And we give space for businesses to try out their business, like actually have a storefront, a street level storefront in downtown.
It's kind of like a mini mall, but for like local businesses.
Yes. Yeah. And we have incubators and mentors. If you're an incubator, then it's kind of short term, but we do have some businesses that are mentor anchor tenants, and they're there long term. Anyways, I've been managing that forever. This year, I hired Byron Edwards, who I love. He's our new Selden Market manager. Look him up. He also does wellness for creatives. It's kind of his own brand, and he has a run club in downtown, Run Your Best Mile. So I want to shout him out because he has really changed my life. He's now running Selden for the most part on the day-to-day, which is now allowing me little by little to be able to focus on the economic vitality of downtown as a whole. And then Selden still sits under my purview. And I do the leasing and like top level strategy and budget and stuff for Selden, but we're undergoing renovations that was started earlier this year or in the fall, and then we start renovations back up after the holidays. So this spring we'll have like another grand reopening with a nice fresh new space. Shout out to the city of Norfolk for working with us on ARPA funding and other funding in order to have those renovations happen that support the small business community and the community as well. So we get to invite the community in like every day and have a space for you to come chill. We have Wi-Fi. You can come have a meeting. You can come use the space for whatever. And so that's nice.
Hell yeah. Careyann, I appreciate you. Is there anything else you want to touch on? Anything else you want to leave the people with?
No, that I can think of. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Anytime. We could do it again. This was a fire convo. Yeah. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. If you're watching this, we'll see you soon. Yep. Peace. Check out Selden Market. Check out Neon District in Norfolk. Come out to some of these events. Yeah, get in tune with our creative scene. A lot of these people are going to have worldwide fans soon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Peace.
For
Come
sure.
on.